Life is an amazing podcast, and it is presented and hosted by myself, Caro, and my sweet dog Sparky. Give it up for him. I hope you're ready. Enjoy. Alrighty, and we're back for another episode of Go For Your Life. And this is a series I'm doing called Rescue Angels. And I'm super excited because I'm going to be talking with Jason and Gibson, aka known as the Real Bobbins, who has a beautiful book as well that I have bought. And that's kind of how I got to know the story of Gibson. And I'm super excited to welcome Jason to this episode. Hello, Jason.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here all the way from New Jersey. This is so super exciting. So, what a wonderful, beautiful dog you have there.
Thank you. He says thank
you. Yeah, he's so beautiful. And he also has a brother, right?
He does. His brother's name is Mac, a.k.a. Macaroni.
They all have, and exactly when we're talking about names, so his name is Gibson, but then the book is, in the book he's Bobbins. So can you explain a little bit the story, what's going on there?
Absolutely. So, yes, his real name actually, when we got him was Gibbs. We changed it to Gibson, just to keep a little bit of continuity, you know, even though I'm not too sure he knew his name, but, the way that Bubbins came about was, if you look on his nose, whether in real life or especially in the illustrated version of him, you can tell there's a very pronounced bump on his nose. And my wife and my sister-in-law are big fans of the TV show Friends, and I believe Chandler had what they called a nubbin on his chest. We kind of called him Bubbies. So he kind of just naturally became the conglomeration of Bubbies and Nubbin. So and that's how Bubbins was created.
And it rhymes so well with belly rubbins, isn't it?
It does.
It's just perfect. Because Jason, you wrote this book about Gibson, the Real Bubbins, and tell us a little bit about that, because I'm a huge fan of the book. I got the book, gave it to a few friends of mine. It's a wonderful thing. So tell us a little bit about how that came about and all that.
Absolutely. So totally off the topic of dog rescue, but at one point I lived in Israel and I was getting my master's degree in counterterrorism and homeland security, and during that degree, like 95% of what we were learning about was, how to stop the terrorists by blowing them up, cutting off the money chain, cutting off, their ability to get weapons. And then one professor who was actually visiting from Georgetown, he taught a course, and it was the most profound lecture that I had experienced and really stuck with me. And I remember him saying that the only way to truly stop terrorism, long term, is through education. And I was just very surprised by the majority of what we were learning then was not based on education. But then you fast forward years later, and Gibson comes into my life, and I'm looking at him one night when he's laying on the couch, and I see the scars all over his head, his neck, his body. And I think to myself, how could anyone have done this to such a kind and loving being? And then it hit me. The only way to stop this is through education. And one of our main slogans is, we can spay, neuter, shelter, foster, and adopt, but until we educate, it won't stop. And I believe that to be the truth. And I believe that, what we're doing, although absolutely necessary and of course extremely admirable, it's kind of the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And I think that the way to kind of break that cycle is, to think long term as well as short term. And that's where the education component comes in.
Yeah. And so education is a really important part of this whole project as well, of writing the book, right? It wasn't just like, I'll write a book because I want to write a book, Oh,
no. It was, I try to tell people that all the time. I try to let them know I didn't write this book to, sell 500 books so I could say, oh, I'm a children's book author, and give it to people during the holidays, and that sort of thing. I I'm taking this extremely, extremely serious. I believe that what's happening is a full-time problem and it deserves a full-time solution. So I've actually left my day job, my full-time job, and now I do this full-time.
High five for that.
Thank
Good.
you.
Very good,
Go for
Jason.
Your life, right? The name of the podcast.
Well, what a brave go for your life. Exactly. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, so good. So brave and so inspiring, really.
Yeah, the education component, I wanted to write a book that it wasn't some silly children's book. I wanted to write a children's book that kids could find meaning in, and they could also learn a lot. So it's not just some silly children's book. It's really trying to show the full journey of a rescue dog from a bad home to a shelter, and then to the dog's loving forever home.
Yeah, because we really follow this story of Gibson from like his whole struggle, and you're writing it in like this rhyme form. Like for me, it was so beautiful as well because it is very much a children book, but also especially I think for adults, it's so heartbreaking and very touching, and it really gets you. I mean, I've read it so many times and I cry every time.
Yeah.
I guess also because I've worked with so many rescues, but it's just so powerful, to really feel his pain and he's been lost and kind of, just, not seen for so long, and it's, that's what really hits you in the story.
I think that's been one of the most interesting parts of what I've noticed is that it does hit the adults on a much different level than the children. The adults can really read between the lines and truly understand what Bubbins is going through, whereas the kids they're just kind of rooting for him. They know he's going through hard times, but they're kids, so they understand all the different combinations or permutations of what could really be happening to Bubbins behind that fence, or how hard the struggle to live in a shelter really is, right? Or a dog growing up in a bad home and being neglected and not getting food and being bathed and that sort of thing. And it's incredible because oftentimes the adults will message us and tell us that we were crying, and when I was crying when I read it to every single person, they pretty much cried.
Yeah. And I was like, there was a friend of mine here, and he's such a tough guy, I mean, he also loves animals, but he really is tough as guts. And he was like page 2, and he was like, oh my God. And I could tell that he was like,
you know what though? I think it's so important that this is the kind of point that I'm trying to make with this is that it's hard to see. It's so hard to see. And I think that's another, educating the children, of course, is a massive part of this, but also just kind of getting the adults to be willing to see the problem.
Exactly. That's a layer.
Feel the emotion, because until they are okay with seeing the problem and feeling that emotion, then we're never going to be able to find a solution.
Exactly.
And, people all the time, and, cause my wife and I, we volunteer as much as we can over at the Newark Animal Shelter. And when I tell people we go there, they're like, oh, I couldn't go see that. That would be too terrible. But it's kind of like, is ignorance really bliss?
Yeah. Is it?
Oh.
Yeah. No. It's that's really true. And I have to say that a lot of credit needs to be given to the illustrator as well, because the images are so, and especially because, as I told you, I'm like stalking Gibson on a daily basis because I always want to know what he's doing. So I always check your Instagram, which I also have to credit you for. It's such a great Instagram. I love it. And, the videos and the stories, they're all always so nice. But so I kind of really knew what he looked like. And then to see the drawing, I was like, that is exactly him. And now seeing him like on Skype, I can really tell that it really is so well done. So how did you find this illustrator to work together with you?
Well, sometimes when you're trying to do good in the world, the universe kind of carves the pathway for you.
True.
I actually, when I was still considering, I was always wanting to publish the book, and I guess I just didn't really know how. And I was very fortunate to be in a business group for my day job, and there happened to be a gentleman who was a publicist in the group. And I walked walked up to him after one of the meetings, and I told him about the book, and we met the following week, and he said this is definitely something worth pursuing, which was kind of the first kick in the butt to get moving on it and really bring it to fruition, because in terms of going for your life.
Exactly. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, but it's a stark contrast to who I had been in the past.
Yeah.
I'm 6'4" at the time I wrote the book. I was 275-pound meathead. I had worked as a U.S. government background investigator. I had a counterterrorism master's degree. I was financial crime for a big four company. So writing a children's book really wasn't, I guess, fitting into that persona. So it's kind of a little bit of am I actually going to do this sort of thing? And it was just so important to me, and such a beautiful story, and I knew it could do a lot of good, that I knew I needed to get it out there. Mm-hmm. And so he told me it was definitely something worth pursuing, and then he actually gave me the number to an illustrator that one of his other authors had used. And I spoke with him, and we were all ready to get started and get going. And then about a week in, he messaged me and told me that he had gotten a very large project at his day job and that he couldn't take on the book. But he gave me the recommendation of a gentleman by the name of Connor DeHaan, who has turned out to be an amazing illustrator, an amazing friend, and just a great person to be working with. Mm-hmm. He's obviously super talented, and he's pretty young, so I'm excited to see his career progress as well.
And did he also meet Gibson a few times? Like, did he actually seen him in real life too, or did he really just start making the illustrations from photos? Or
so he actually lives in Syracuse, New York, which is probably about 8 hours from where we live, and we've actually never met in person, believe it or not. And he's only taken. I'd love to meet him. I'd love to just give him a hug and say thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
He's done.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the beginning, we just sent him a bunch of pictures of Gibson, and going through that process with him was so fun, because it was. I can't draw to save my life.
Yeah, same.
But it was really fun to be able to work with somebody who is so talented.
Yeah, exactly.
And is so willing and able to take creative and constructive criticism on what he's drawing and to bring it to life. So it was really, in the beginning especially, it was a lot of back and forth, you know.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of nail down what Bubbins looks like, then
the characteristics are so perfectly done. Like, he really is exactly him in the illustrations as well as in the photos. So, and I think it's even more impressive that this guy has been drawing and illustrating from photos. Like, he hasn't actually seen, which is even more like amazing. So it's really, really cool. What a great story. Like, that's also, it must also been amazing as an illustrator to be part of such an important project, because that's also what it is.
Well, the fun thing about it is that when I didn't know this at the time when I got introduced to him, and even when we had our first conversation, he told me that he actually has a rescue pit bull.
Ah, so, cool.
Yeah, he said that he got his rescue pit bull from some guy on Craigslist had posted that he couldn't have this dog anymore and he needed to give him away. So Connor went and got him, and when he got there, he said the dog was living in not good conditions and just like eating Doritos, and like it was just. So he actually has his own rescue pit, and
wow,
project even more near and dear to him.
Absolutely, yeah, I can imagine that's really taking it all home for you. When you're asked to do something like this, that's really amazing. And speaking of which, so Gibson, like, you didn't really know his story, right? Like, you don't, or like how, like when he came into your life, did you guys know anything he went through, or?
No. So a lot of people ask me, they say, is this his real story? Is this his true story? And the true story is that we don't know, because when he was 10 years old, he was found